the second time, and my checking account was overdrafted for the second time in 2 weeks. I was just today denied another Amazon job opportunity. I am probably on my 15th application, getting only one interview. Your resources for living is a joke. I even looked into your financial assistance for attorney fees at one point and calculated that it was still completely out of reach to afford even with your support. I wish to speak to founder Jeff Bezos directly. He has clearly chosen to leave society, literally sending himself and celebrities out of orbit on the backs of Amazon employees and at the added expense of more fossil fuel. Then any number of employees could offset conserving Amazon materials sparingly. I had written Bezos into my screenplay, The Dragon Wagon, 4 years ago as a 15 to 20 years into the future, comically out of touch, dystopian parody of himself, who, along with Musk and Zuckerberg, would come to control not just any presidency, but specifically a Trump family presidency. And guess who sat in the front row at the Trump inauguration, exactly as predicted in my film? Oh, and I suppose it's just a coincidence that only a week later, leaders of the National Labor Relations Board, NLRB, would be fired by the Trump admin. I don't even care to speak to the CEO, Andy Jassy, or whatever his name is. I've actually made a deliberate point to not learn the CEO's name, as he doesn't represent employees, only the stockholders. Jeff Bezos needs to convince the corporate shareholders to fire our CEO and hire me in his place. I am not only not delusional and have the psych evaluation to prove it, I am dead serious. Actually, I wish to offer my services to Mr. Bezos himself, becoming his personal envoy to humanity. He clearly has no idea what he is doing to his employees, and ultimately to himself by association. And as we've seen in the case of Luigi Mangione, billionaires aren't bulletproof and are becoming increasingly scrutinized politically and personally, and the public narrative around his super wealthy class is rapidly descending into dangerous vigilante justice. My dream satire film is having a life imitates art imitating life evolution, similar to Idiocracies, one of 2 Mike Judge films I'm going to reference tonight. My screenplay is for sale, BTW. Why Ryan J. Slater? I cannot be corrupted. This is part of my reality-based religion I am building. I have spent more than 2/3 of my life in various therapies, living 6 months as an inpatient at UCLA Medical Extension, as the only male patient on an all-female ward of teenagers with major behavioral health issues after my first suicide attempt at 15. I have more first-hand practice in sociopsychology than probably any clinician. For reasons I will be happy to elaborate on, as is the case with Trump retaking the White House, I have an uncanny ability to predict the future. Some small political circles are beginning to see. Having hobbied in psychology and grown up among addiction in a celebrity-spotlighted Los Angeles household, I have learned to read societal trends in ways that will blow historians away once my social media exploits are published to the world. Long ago, I realized no one was going to vouch for me if I had nothing to offer them. So I became such an avid social media user to prove to my daughter I did all I could to prevent humanity's destruction. You just found it in your short-term interests to suppress my message. We know you don't care and interpret your bullshit community engagement promoting inclusivity as just another palliative form of meaningless, and most importantly, free of cost consolation for your continued wage theft. I view it as forced complacency, no different than religion, just another construct of corporate control. I'm personally not even comfortable with the transgender flag being flown under the American and New Mexican flags at ABQ1. I am not transgender, nor am I a native New Mexican, and am currently investigating renouncing my U.S. citizenship, seeking political asylum in New Zealand. You do not represent me in any capacity, so please shove your inclusivity BS up your collective ass. We know Bezos and Jassy have nothing but contempt for employees and impoverished people as a whole. Even at the larger facilities, almost no one participates in those ridiculous groups. Back at ABQ5, there were 2 members of Black Employee Network Ben I knew of, me and another white person. Most employees spend their breaks smoking alone in their vehicles, purposefully avoiding their peers. In my personal experience at ABQ1, employees en masse, including even some management, deeply resent our founder and everything he represents. They're not grateful, but rather attribute their place in the system's lowest caste, forced to perform grueling and ever-fleeting work, to billionaires like him, and typically name Bezos as the worst offender among his class. Either way, I am sick and tired of this job. Amazon is a miserable place to work. I am almost 42 years old. I exercise regularly and have even started yoga, but my feet, back, neck, and shoulders ache all day. I asked an older man I work with why I never see him in fluids, building big walls of boxes and trailers, and my favorite place to get to know people, thinking the reason was something innocuous or inconsequential. But he told me he needs surgery on his shoulder, which would of course mean he will not be earning an income while recovering, and thus chooses to work through the pain. This is just disgusting. I have personally been hurt on site 3 times, and each time I visit the health center it feels like a police interrogation, even though in all 3 cases I told them it was my fault. It could not be more apparent that my safety is an afterthought, and the only concern is whether Amazon could be sued. I want to wear my shoes. People with 1-year experience should be allowed to switch. Signing a waiver and determinations can be made if a small layer of composite material would have prevented some amount of damage. But you know what? If I risk breaking a toe, that should be my choice, not yours. Guess what? I've been wearing my normal sneakers for 4 weeks, and I was only told to change them once. The trade-off is I am less tired and less likely to make a mistake, but yeah, there's about an afternoon of shopping at Home Depot chance an experienced employee could break a toe. Who cares? I broke one at home a month ago. It sucks. But I'd much rather be comfortable and not hurt all week. We can keep our safety shoes nearby if needed, during CPTs, for example. Give us the respect to know what's best for ourselves. But you know what? Perhaps if you paid people properly, they would not feel as inclined to sue you at every conceivable opportunity. Wearing a vest doesn't make my job safer, nor does holding a pallet jack with 2 hands SMH. So many of our safety rules are obviously written by attorneys who would never lower themselves to do our work while making $1,000 an hour. I've even had a PXT member check to see if I was recording him, which I was, because God forbid Amazon's internal conduct be made public. Everyone knows, especially because I tell the ones who don't, that you're planning to replace us with robots, hiring fewer and fewer managers each year, even going as far as running the new Shreveport, Louisiana facility without any managers on the night shift whatsoever. And we know we're getting our robots at ABQ1 in 2.5 years. How many net jobs will that cost us? I watched the surveyors last fall doing their 3D mapping of the facility so the AI could train on safe human-robot navigation. And you, of course, just laid off 1,700 employees in Quebec, one of which was unionized. Speaking of, one of your NY facilities turned the hose on striking employees in frigid weather. There was a 5-person strike at my massive facility, which of course is ridiculous. It would have been the entire location had you not done such a good job union busting. Most employees don't even know what a union is, despite your paying us enough to hardly survive. I have a mortgage, child support, attorney fees, and living expenses. If I get more custody, which I desperately seek, I don't know how I'll get my kid to and from school. I'll need a lot of money for babysitters when I want to be there for her, rather than having to pay someone else to be there for her in my place, as was my fucked up experience. If I work all 40 allotted hours, I'm left with less than nothing each month. ABQ5's management, and especially Bridget, knew that I urgently needed the L3 position, for which job I gave my area manager, Joe. Probably the best interview he will likely ever see in his Amazon career. I learned from management I even had a few positive adapts for going above and beyond in my time there, and had a likewise reputation for being the hardest working water spider, a position they only offered to the most proactive ABQ5 staff. Despite the absolutely horrific events I was suffering in my personal life, I was on house arrest, and I could only make changes to my weekly schedule at 7 a.m. on Tuesdays, so I could not accept VET, and was starving to death, unable to meet any of my responsibilities. So I really needed the promotion to keep my home and not lose custody of my daughter to the narcissistic sociopath who kidnapped her. All of ABQ5's LP and management, resources for living, and our regional corporate management knew all about that too. But guess what? Because everyone at Amazon is hired and fired via algorithm, the next L6 at any given facility is just as likely to be hired off the street, as was the case at ABQ5, and likewise I didn't get the job. So my mother had to sell her home to cover my mortgage so I wouldn't lose the little bit of custody. I spent $250,000 to get. You don't care about me. Why should I care about you and your UPT? From that moment forward, it could not have been made more clear to me that Amazon doesn't give half a shit whether I live or die. Resources for living were well aware of the fact that I was likely to take my life at any moment, so even corporate knew I needed that job. Meanwhile, tier 1s are slaving and getting hurt. I got sick last week and threw up all over the ABQ1 bathroom stall and my pants and shoes. I haven't thrown up in decades. And the week before that, I pulled my neck doing nothing strenuous whatsoever at the time. Repetitive motion, they told me. I am small-framed. My upper back, neck, and shoulder hurt every day, and I maintain shape. My safety shoes are incredibly painful, and I've tried multiple sizes, even the wider-framed ones. I have to remove my shoes for the entirety of every break so my feet can recover. On my 3 days off, I'm too tired to even go outside. The hours are simply too long. Others may be able to do it, but I cannot. Certainly not for the money you pay me. I need to cook at home on my salary, especially to get in good nutrients to perform at my job. I live alone. I must prepare 3 meals for my day. I wake up at 5:30 a.m., and it's just not enough time or sleep between shifts. I should be getting 3 times my current wage to do what I do with 25% less hours. If productivity is up, why are we doing more for less? Especially when Jeff Bezos is earning $100 million per day, his monthly salary is $3 billion. Are you personally okay with that? We have employees living in our parking lots. You even unironically promote it as an alternative retirement in your Amazon Prime film, Nomad with Frances McDormand. And you don't even care about my contributions and leadership skills. Instead, your L3s and L4s micromanage us in ways that don't even make logical sense. It often feels like the Mike Judge film, Office Space, with Bill Lumbergh-typed corporate slime walking on subordinates to find their way to the top of a dead-end job. We have no autonomy. I don't give a flying fuck about my scan rate. I am a human being, not a robot. My job downstacking technically doesn't even require a scanner. But it's clear the point is to track our supposed productivity levels. Half the things I do voluntarily, such as organizing shoots, is to improve the entire system so the robots can perform their jobs smoothly. But guess what? It fucks up my scan rate, and I've been chewed out for doing things like that. Rebuilding people's poorly constructed pallets and walls, improving safety and efficiency, packing in 25% more volume than other employees, clearing pathways, and distributing necessary supplies evenly throughout the facility, none of which is even my job. I just do it to make a point that your management is garbage and I can do everyone's job in less time. I show up an hour late each day in protest of your working conditions. And ironically, like the film, management has finally begun to show me some respect. There's a culture of bullying too, even among the tier 1s. Why is that? Maybe people are disgruntled? Maybe AI algorithms shouldn't be responsible for hiring staff to positions that require social interaction? I've been threatened by staff. I even reported one case to the sheriff, and management at ABQ5 took no recourse over an issue involving a new white badge staff member who had recently been trained by the manager, to whom I had repeatedly voiced my concerns. Regarding L1's fighting over varying work styles, offended that I had taken the initiative to repair his structurally unsound palate. You're not training me in any applicable skills. I'm just the meat legs component to my scanner, I regularly tell my fellow employees. I go on to say, when the scanner grows legs, like the higher paid management jobs, Amazon will lay us off too. And we'll all be facing a further dwindling job market when that happens. I stay home for an extra hour every day in protest of your evil corporation. I get that Jeff Bezos wishes to be king of the planet, but does he want his slaves to love him or revolt against him? I'm in the process of organizing for my book, chronicling my experience nearly losing my child to our corrupt family court system, a public entity also controlled by private industry, and plan to have a chapter dedicated to my working at Amazon while being falsely imprisoned, illustrating the challenges of modern Americans at the hands of the consolidation of wealth. Some things I ask Mr. Bezos to consider. How many employees have nothing to lose at Amazon? Are you familiar with parental alienation? How many of your people have lost custody of their kids because they couldn't afford to keep fighting in court at $350 per hour? I'll bet you have 50,000 worthy splinter cells. Believe it or not, my passion is not this. There is no pride of employment. Every moment in this windowless box is one that makes me personally want to die more than the moment that preceded it. If I don't smoke enough weed throughout the day, I intentionally hold my breath, hoping I pass out, hit my head on something, and die in my unconsciousness. And then when I read you put on the bulletin board above the urinal, you don't want people smoking weed in their cars? It's legal. Shut up. I also have severe PTSD, major depressive disorder, and generalized anxiety disorder. I'm medical. Imagine having your children taken from you without due process, and once it's proven there was no cause, they continue to keep your kid from you? How would you distinguish that from an illegal kidnapping in your mind? Imagine how many of our employees are among the 48,000 annual American families who undergo parental alienation at the hands of a court system, controlled by private industry, i.e. for-profit prisons, state bar associations, bail bondsmen, etc. I am deeply ashamed to have to spend 40 hours of my week here. I feel like a slave, but at least slaves had no responsibilities. You're not okay with just having super yachts in only 3 or 4 oceans? I'm cool with you having a few, but how many fucking super yachts do you need? And why not let your employees use one of the older ones sometimes? Stop dicking around in space. Apparently you didn't study science as a kid, but there's nothing for you in space. You and Musk will kill each other on Mars. Actually, yeah, go to Mars. Musk will be so jealous you got there first. Amazon employees hate you. Some Whole Foods employees I've spoken with do too, and I am no different. I'd like to help you change that, Mr. Bezos, but I am not going to be cheap. Starting with me, you will see why you'll want to show appreciation to those who support you from now on. There are things that I want too. I want to fix my steering so I don't die driving to work. I want to fix the dangling cabin light so people don't pity me in my 30-year-old car with 222,000 miles I've driven since 1997. And get a new Volvo V90 cross-country, like the one I bought my ex when money was pretty good. I want to fix my house so I can get a roommate. I want to replace my TV I bought used 12 years ago. I want to pay my HOA dues. I want friends and a cute girlfriend, smarter than me. I want big lizards. I want to produce my film. I want a new hot tub and regular massage. I want to build my dream psilocybin therapeutic retreat in the Colorado Rockies. I want to drink good wine and retire to a luxury cabin in the mountains with fresh running water, occasionally taking mushrooms with friends. I wish to remove the bags from my eyes and cover my horrible tattoo. And guess what? I deserve all that and more. So do you. Everyone deserves to be happy. But certainly, no one deserves to have everything while everyone else has nothing. You are making enemies, not friends. People hate you with very good reason, Jeff, and I am no exception. They will come after you. Give us respect. We know how to do our jobs. Stop spying on and interrogating us. Stop preying on us. If you wanted the public to believe your employees were happy, your facilities would have windows. We all know the world is ending, and your underground New Zealand bunkers will not protect you for long. I have no survival skills. None. I expect to be killed quickly, albeit in a blaze of glory. It takes me a while to pitch a tent. I assume others of my generation feel the same. How do I eat without a job? I simply can't keep up these hours. We need double pay to start with linear merit-based advancement. And we need fucking windows on staff masseuses offering 30 minutes every week, and covered parking lots. We live in a desert. If everyone works for you, who will buy your products? Have you even thought about this? Hire more people and pay them all a lot more. Call me, Jeff. We can save each other. P.S. Sean O'Brien says Donald Trump listens to him too. I will demand proof that Mr. Bezos has personally read this. And, at the bare minimum, I want a response and at least one 3 to 6 month follow-up response.